Welcome to Offscreen and a Happy New Year. I'm Van Connor.
And I'm Becks Perfect, and this is your 7-day guide to everything movies. And before I give you the boom, yes, it's movies you can enjoy as ever on your couch. Boom.
As long as we get to the boom eventually, we're all good. Happy New Year, Miss Perfect. How was your holiday?
Happy New Year. Do you know what? Well, how was yours? It's probably exactly the same as yours, to be honest. Well, happy weird Christmas and happy new tier, I would say, is probably how I describe it.
Very much. Well, I don't know about you, but I spent my Christmas pretty much just watching movies and documentaries and things. And I saw Wonder Woman 84 again, and I watched Soul again. But mostly I watched films again, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
There's a lot of agains.
Yeah, my other half was very much like, we are in Christmas, we are watching every single Christmas movie out there. So apart from Krampus, I was really annoyed. I was like, no, I've got to find it. We're going to find it. I also had quite an interesting debate because I was desperate to watch Enchanted. I paid a premium amount to watch it of $11.99. And I know, wow. And
in this day and age, $11.99 for Enchanted.
I know. Hubby hated it.
Well, I mean, I've never particularly been a fan, but I think I saw it when it came out, which is, 2005, 2006, so it's been a while. I have to try it again. They're on about doing a sequel all the time, aren't they? They constantly talk about doing a sequel to Enchanted.
They are doing a sequel, but I mean, the closest you'll get to a sequel right this moment is Godmothered. But
yes.
Yeah.
But you say they are doing a sequel. They are in the way that they're doing a Hocus Pocus sequel and a Sister Act threequel. You know, it's one of those I'll believe when I see it.
A charity show on Zoom.
Yeah, that's my big bugbear of 2020. After the pandemic, obviously, and, the bushfires, the attempted war with Iran, the claims of fraud. After all those, one of my big bugbears of 2020 is I'm really sick and tired of, we're going to reunite the cast of this thing you really love for a sequel, ... on Zoom. Right, that is not... That's it. That is not Father of the Bride 3. That's a Zoom call. There's a difference.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Anyway, let's talk about something grander.
Bigger and brighter things. And I suppose, you can't get more brighter than good old Ziggy Stardust, could you? What a segue that was. There's a new David Bowie film out, isn't there?
Yes, Stardust from director Gabriel Range, helmer of such heavyweight titles as Death of a President and I Am Slave. And the fact that you've heard of neither of those films should tell you an awful lot about this one in advance. So have you seen Stardust, Becks? Did you get to watch this?
I have indeed, and obviously this is the film that follows David Bowie as he kind of reinvents himself as Ziggy Stardust. So he goes over to America to promote his new album, The Man Who Sold the World, and it's that moment in time. So this isn't a Bohemian Rhapsody style biopic. This is a snippet of a moment in time. It stars Johnny Flynn, brilliant Johnny Flynn, and also almost unrecognisable Jenna Malone is in this.
She is. And you know who else is in this? And I have to say this because he's literally playing the same role he plays in everything. Mark Maron is in this, playing a character who may as well literally just be named Mark Maron.
Mark Maron.
I mean, maybe more people would want to meet me if you told them that I was a unique artist, say, who could fill the gap between Elvis and Dylan.
Elvis and Dylan. Gap. So, who do we got in there? Neil Young, James Taylor, Marvin Gaye, Leonard Cohen, the Ohio Players, The Doors, The Velvets, Creedence, Johnny Cash, Janis Joplin, Joni Mitchell, every artist on the Motown label.
I mean, a unique British artist.
Right, unique British artist. There aren't too many of those other than Led Zepp, Pink Floyd, Deep Purple, Yes,
Yep.
Pretty Things,
Yep.
Faces, Rolling Stones. Rolling Stones.
Can I say how monumentally disappointed I was with this film?
Oh, yes. As was I, indeed. Very much. Right, can we just agree, just between us, that if you're going to make a David Bowie biopic, the bare minimum, the one requirement, the only thing you have to do, and this is even more important than whoever you get to play David Bowie, is you kind of need David Bowie's music.
100%. Now, Duncan Jones and I suppose the David Bowie estate essentially did not grant any rights to any.
Gee, I wonder why.
Yeah, for this movie. So it's working with source material that it can't use. And when you're picking out the transformation and brilliant move from David Bowie into Ziggy Stardust, you need... Not like this is probably the most visual and you need the stuff to make it work. What the hell is it doing?
Right, this happened before. Now, I don't know if you remember, 7 or 8 years ago, John Ridley wrote and directed a Jimi Hendrix biopic with Andre 3000 called Jimmy All Is By My Side, in which it was all about Jimi Hendrix basically discovering how to be Jimi Hendrix, and you had exactly the same problem. Nobody saw the movie, nobody cared, nobody gave it a good review. And we've got exactly the same thing here. Now, the problem is the film itself isn't inherently bad. It's not a bad movie inherently. No. The problem is it's a basic movie. It's a basic movie that needs flavouring. It's got a good central performance from Johnny Flynn, I think. Mark Maron is Mark Maron. Now, Mark Maron is quite good. I mean, Glow fans are going to love him for this because he is literally doing the same shtick that he does in Glow. But the problem is everything about it otherwise is just, right, here's the checklist for the musician's biopic. Please tick off everything as you go and we'll see you at the end credits. And then you've got, okay, so we've got the eureka moment, what Mark Kermode refers to as the chubby moment. You know the bit where, Jimi Hendrix sees a fox and then a lady and miraculously comes up with the idea of Foxy Lady, you know. Yeah, I'm making that up, but you get the idea. Something that ridiculous, and he literally has that moment.
Say that, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But you literally have that moment in there where he's told about someone named Ziggy, for example. Okay, so that's a eureka moment. You've then got, the flashbacks to past trauma. You know that one that every musician apparently has if you believe movies. Like, you can't be a successful musician, apparently, unless a very specific kind of family trauma has befallen you.
And you can't make a movie about past trauma unless you're moving walls and doors and then making it feel like it's closing in on you. Yeah, I get what you mean with it being basic. Like, it's filmmaking 101 from film school, which is a massive, massive shame.
And you'll remember this moment because it features very prominently in the marketing for Bohemian Rhapsody, the moments in which our protagonist, our musical legend, is told over and over, oh, nobody cares about insert thing you will become known for here.
Look, there is the thing is that, like, this was the lead film at Raindance, right? This was the thing that was going to open that. This is like, Johnny Flynn. I don't even know if Johnny Flynn rocked up to the premiere of it. I do. I wonder if he didn't have any faith in it. The problem is, for me, is that it was dull as dishwater. It was like, I just watched it wanting more. I ended up on my phone Googling about the characters more than I did watching it, because there's this whole thing about David Bowie's brother, who was had a lot of problems. I think he was schizophrenic. He was put into, actually, funnily enough, he was put into a number of hospitals and places near where I live. So I ended up Googling all of that out of pure interest. And, there's all that stuff that I was like, why is this not being brought into this story, And then you want to see this massive performance at the end and stuff. And it kind of felt very lackluster. And I just the whole movie is that's how I describe it. Lackluster. Johnny Flynn cannot save this movie. Yes, I'll give it to you. Both him and Jenna Malone, I think, do give really good performances. She was really unrecognisable in this. It took me a while to go, who is playing his wife in this? I can't work it out. Where is Jenna Malone in this film? And then it's her.
Right. I mean, the fundamental issue that I keep coming back to with Stardust, which incidentally I gave the pull quote of less starry, more dusty. Is that I can't figure out for the life of me who it's for. Now, I'm a Bowie fan, and I have issues with it because I'm sort of thinking, well, I've learned nothing new about this man. It's not a particularly interesting film, and you've not got the one component I want from a David Bowie movie, which is his music. If I wasn't a David Bowie fan, this wouldn't win me over because the film isn't particularly very good. And if I'd never heard of David Bowie, well, what's the one thing missing from it that I would want to take away that could possibly, introduce me to David Bowie? It's one of those, it's the RoboCop problem. The problem with RoboCop, for instance, is you took an R-rated film when you remade that. When they remade that film, they took an R-rated film, they made it a PG-13 for the remake, begging the question: oh, okay, so this is presumably entirely for people who don't know the source material. Why then is it filled stock to the gills with references to the original? Why are there these moments where you're constantly referring back to the original that your intended audience have not seen? You've purposefully positioned this to exclude that audience. Why are you then catering for it? The problem is you have a film that doesn't know what it wants to be. Is it Green Book with David Bowie? Is it, is it his version of Bohemian Rhapsody? Because it doesn't have any of the core components to be any of the things that it would need to be to work. And in terms of just being an engaging biopic, it's too boilerplate, it's too by the numbers, and frankly, the material just isn't really there. Johnny Flynn's very, very good, but we knew he'd be very good from the casting alone. This is, Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. This is the second you heard that casting, you thought, perfect, okay, we're good, we're sold. Package that, that'll work. Unfortunately, you're counting on the packaging itself to actually be up to par, and sadly, it really isn't in this case. And when I say boilerplate, I mean that includes Gabriel Ranger's direction as well. The fact that I mentioned those two films at the top end of this was purposeful. That tells you an awful lot about just how kind of otherwise direct to DVD this does feel.
Yeah, and in that, probably the bargain bin. So that I feel like we're being quite harsh, but it's because we're actually really frustrated by this. It's because I think I was really excited. I was like, oh, let's watch this. This is going to be really exciting. This is going to be a great watch. And then I was like, oh, get to the point. Yeah. This is boring. Like, even just get some makeup on, David. Like, there's so much time of him not being Ziggy. And I kind of wanted that to come in earlier so we can explore him as Ziggy, because that is the far more interesting route to go with this movie. For me, I think it's like, God, half a thumb up. Like, that's about it. That's all I'd say.
That's it. I mean, it's it's competent, isn't it? I was just going to say functional. It's a functional, serviceable film. But it's really nothing more. And I'm sorry, but David Bowie doesn't need this movie. He doesn't need Jimmy Orr's By My Side. He doesn't even need Bohemian Rhapsody. David Bowie needs Rocket Man. That's the movie David Bowie needs. Yeah,
more so than Elton, actually. Welcome back to Off Screen. So, from Ziggy Stardust, we're bringing you back down to earth and into your movies on TV. So, get that couch looking comfy. I know my brand new couch is very much overused now. I think we're going to have to go and trade it in for a new one because we've done nothing but sit on it. But we've got a really good selection, a mixed selection for you of movies on TV in this next block. So, hopefully there will be something in there for you. And if you are ready to cry your eyes out, prepare yourself, because on 5 Star on Saturday afternoon at 4:45 p.m, oh goodness, earlier for this, you and the family can cry your eyes out to Marley and Me. Oh my goodness.
I will admit that even I shed a few tears at Marley, because I know the conventional thought on Marley and Me is, oh, it's this saccharine garbage. Well, yes, it is, but it's very, very well made saccharine garbage that's made well enough to precision draw tears from you. It's precision crafted to just draw those tears. Of course, this is based on it was a New York Times bestseller, wasn't it, Marley and Me?
Yeah, and I think
one of several books.
Yeah, and one that I think obviously the writer is talking from experience on. It's not just a fictional made up thing, but it basically follows the story of a married couple played by Owen Wilson and Jennifer Aniston. And they adopt a really free-spirited puppy called Marley, and he basically teaches them and their children really important life lessons, and you go through Marley's life.
You like that? You like Bob Marley? Bob. Would that be a good name? Bob. Bob. Come here, Bob. Or Robert, when you got older, more dignified. Marley? You like that? That has a nice ring to it. Okay, whoa. Well, better if you ride shotgun, because we don't want to have a car crash our first real day together.
Wow.
I know, I love it. So let me tell you a little story about this, right?
on.
You know, do you remember when we all used to be able to get on planes and fly places, and we could watch movies on planes?
In the before times, in the previous world, yeah.
The before world, yes. Well, I was on said flight to New Zealand, of all places, and I watched this. And obviously, on a flight to New Zealand, you can watch a number of different movies, and it can take a long time to get to New Zealand. So my husband woke up from a nap during the flight to turn around to see me in probably the most flood of tears any person could do, and he was like, have I missed some turbulence? Are you okay? What's going on? And I was like, I can't deal with this film. And I think I cried for a good couple of hours afterwards as well, which passed the time beautifully.
This is completely off topic, but I think the last time I was on a flight, funnily enough, I cried over a film, but it was that documentary about Marie Colvin.
With Rosamund Pike.
It wasn't. No, that was the narrative film, but there was the documentary that came out about 6 months ahead of it with the actual guy, with her actual cameraman, Paul something, I forget. But really moving documentary, and just that second time I'd seen it, and it destroyed me both times. Phenomenal story. But anyway, Marley and Me, which I think everything about it sort of works. I mean, Owen Wilson is just likable enough, and Jennifer Aniston on sort of fine family-friendly movie form, and of course it's got a cute puppy. There's a really awful prequel-sequel hybrid that came out of this as well. Marley and Me, the Puppy Years. Yeah, I think it's called the Puppy Years.
Oh, they will try and make money out of anything. Look, it's a brilliant standalone film. It came out in 2008. It still holds its own, right? So just go and enjoy it. It will cheer you up, but it will also bring you through all of the feels on a Saturday afternoon. So, just a word of warning for anyone that's got the little kiddies in tow, that there is obviously, and you can probably imagine what it is. This is all of Marley's life. There is a bit of a sad ending towards the back, and it will break you.
Well, I think we've said before, haven't we, that any movie involving a beloved pet has to do one of only two endings. So there is that. Let's move on to Sunday night. There's something very different. Let's go with gritty drama starring Ryan Reynolds. It's Sunday, BBC Two. Sunday, BBC Two at 10:30 p.m. It's Mississippi Grind. I don't know if you remember this from 2016. This is basically the star is Ben Mendelsohn, and Ryan Reynolds is the secondary lead. It is the story of a degenerate gambler who, played by Mendelsohn, who's he's heavy drinking, down on his luck gambler who encounters a younger sort of equivalent to himself, played by Ryan Reynolds, who sort of renews his optimism and he seems to think has brought him good luck as well. And the pair go on a road trip in the hopes of sort of reviving their fortunes.
He walks right through the doors, blows past security, sits down at the poker table, and he is in heaven. He is brand.
We didn't have Woodford, so sorry about that. That is our top shelf. It's bullet bourbon.
All right, I'm not paying for his, though.
Excuse me?
Well, I said his Woodford is on me, and that's not a Woodford. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, lady. I'm joking. Here, come on. There you go. Thank you. Keep the change.
Very cute.
All right, here. Good luck to you, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you.
Better than the cheap, right?
The question I have about this is, Ryan Reynolds is kind of like, I'm not saying he's pigeonholed himself, but people want to expect a certain Ryan Reynolds when they're watching him on screen. What kind of Ryan Reynolds are we getting in this movie?
You're getting that off-kilter Ryan Reynolds that we had for a long time post Waiting, really, where he's doing things like The Nines and stuff like that, The Voices, things like that, where it's not particularly reliant on his comedic chops so much as just his charm in a drama, because it's about degenerate gamblers. So casting Ryan Reynolds comes with the obvious added value element there that you are parlaying off of the natural charm of Ryan Reynolds, which makes a degree of sense. He's very good in it, but of course he's not the star Ben Mendelsohn is, and Mendelsohn is a terrific actor even on his worst days. I mean, even something I despise like Baby Teeth, I think he's brilliant.
Yeah.
Baby Teeth, incidentally, apparently one of the best movies of last year, according to anyone who owns a cardigan. But I quite like Mississippi Grind. I think it has a lot of gristle to it. It's again, it's kind of boilerplate in that you have seen this gambling drama before. I mean, I particularly am fond of the William H. Macy one, The Cooler, with William H. Macy and Alec Baldwin, which is kind of similar. It's just kind of a similar vibe, but it's a bit less sensationalist. This is a very down and dirty drama that you can imagine was crafted, with the faint hopes that it would be a dark horse Oscar contender. As it is, I think it's a pretty good movie, and I think it's worth checking out. And it's on at pretty much the right time as well, which is a Sunday night, 10:30, you'd be asleep by 10 past midnight kind of a thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, that is a good one to end your weekend with. But to start your week, I am going to give you a 5-star movie, and this is one I wish I could say go and see this one in the cinema again, because it does deserve your full immersion.
Yeah, but no one saw it in the cinema the first time. That was kind of the problem.
Well, you're all idiots, because you should have done.
I agree completely.
And you know what? You shouldn't have just seen it in a cinema. You should have seen it in an impact cinema, because this deserves everything you got. So get the sound bars out, get your big screen out, get a projector out if you got one. I mean, this deserves everything. It is on Sony Movies, 11:10 p.m. Why the hell is it so late? On Monday, it is Blade Runner 2049. The only sequel in a very long time that kind of goes, you know what? I can still hold my own. It's brilliant.
Are they all constructed, or do you ever use ones that are real?
It's illegal to use real memories, officer.
How can you tell the difference? Can you tell if something really happened?
They all think it's about more detail, but that's not how memory works. You recall with our feelings. Anything real should be a mess.
This is one of those movies that really shouldn't exist. I'm glad that it does. It's a terrific movie. It's fantastically well made, beautifully shot, gorgeous cinematography. Everything about it is incredible. And yet, at the same time, the fact that it does exist is just bizarre to me, because every element of conventional wisdom should have told everybody involved that this just wasn't going to pan out. Blade Runner was not a box office hit in the 80s. So why a sequel would be a box office hit 30 years later, I don't quite know. And also, there were bizarre criticisms like, oh, it's not as action-packed as the original, which begged the question, I'm sorry, were you awake and paying attention during the first one, or did you just see the flying cars go whiz by at the beginning and zone out after that?
Yeah, exactly. This, for me, it's a sleeper. It's a sleeper hit. And, if it takes 10 years for it to get the recognition that it absolutely deserves, I'm like, it will be well worth the wait. It is beautifully made, brilliantly shot, well acted, and it's exciting. And I just think if you haven't seen this before, treat yourself. Sony Movies, 11:10 p.m. on Monday. Come back to us and let us know if you didn't like it, because we will argue you down.
I'm going to be really honest. I know a complete dumbass who told me that the Oscar for Best Cinematography should have gone to The Darkest Hour over this. So,
I mean, my face it's like daggers right now.
Oh, you know this person.
Oh.
Anyway, so, Blade Runner 2049, great way to start the week. And you know what? Cinematography, wonderful. Looking to stay in the loop with the latest movie news? Then say hello to the Daily Reel, your bite-sized hit of the biggest happenings, hirings, firings, release dates, scandals, and everything else going on behind the silver screen. Delivered to your ears every weekday morning in less time than you'll spend in the shower. Subscribe to the Daily Reel on all major podcast platforms, or ask Alexa to install the Daily Reel skill for your morning flash briefing. Make your morning cinematic with the Daily Reel. Welcome back to Off Screen, and welcome back to the couch as ever. Carrying on with your Freeview film guide for the next 7 days, we're leaping to this next Tuesday, the 19th of January, on Film 4 at 6:35. This is a bit more family-friendly, I would say, this offering. Very hyped at the time as well. This was 2011, I think.
God, is it only 2011? It is. Yeah, I thought it was earlier than that. I thought I was younger. When I watched it. We're talking about Super 8. It's on Film 4, 6:35 p.m. on Tuesday. This is the movie that I was expecting, if I'm going to be honest. Goonies 2. This is what I was hoping for.
They sort of marketed it with this sort of niche retro nostalgic appeal of something like The Goonies. What it actually did, even though I don't particularly enjoy the film, but I know it has its fans, which is why when we were doing our pickings of this, I had no objection, because I know enough people like this that it's perfectly fine. I mean, also, it's kind of written and directed by J.J. Abrams. He has his fans. I mean, I like The Force Awakens and that Mission Impossible movie he did with Philip Seymour Hoffman as a really good villain. But the biggest thing I can say, sort of in terms of the pop culture sphere about Super 8 is, and it never gets the credit for this, I firmly believe this is the very obvious direct inspiration for Stranger Things. I think Stranger Things spins almost directly out of Super 8, because you look at its appeal, it's a 1979 set movie. It's buried in that Spielbergian, nostalgic, wondrous, rose-tinted, backwards view. Follows a group of effectively tweens. I think Elle Fanning is the female lead in this.
Yeah.
It is Elle Fanning, isn't it?
Yeah. It is, yeah.
Before she went all weird with that fashion movie she did. What was the blood-soaked modelling movie she did?
Yeah.
I remember that one.
I remember the name of it. Yeah, I do remember, but she plays Alice in this, which is she's much more innocent in this. And it also stars Kyle Chandler, which I love as well in this movie.
It's got a hell of a cast, actually. I can't remember if it's Hitchcock or Scully from Brooklyn Nine-Nine's in this as well, and like Noah Emmerich and people like that. But this is sort of Stranger Things-like setup, group of sort of tween friends, the losers from It, for instance, happen upon they witness a train crash that they then witness a sort of government cover-up around it. And is it something more sinister? Well, of course it is. It's a J.J. Abrams movie. Of course, it was steeped in mystery and posters that were nearly completely
black. Oh my God, it's Cloverfield.
Lens flare. That's it, isn't it? It was from the producer of Cloverfield. You're like, dude, no, it's from the creator of Alias. Let's call this what it is. But I think this is one of those films. I think if you're looking for something comparable to The Goonies for a kid of a comparable age nowadays, you would show them something like Super 8. I think if you're a fan of Stranger Things, for instance, you should watch Super 8 to kind of get the obvious chrysalis, the genesis of that as well. You can see that Tuesday, Film 4, 6:35 p.m.
You can indeed. Now, for some of you who are thinking, gosh, I miss those historical tales since Game of Thrones. No, I'm joking. I miss those historical tales on TV. I want to see something that harps back to...
You're just reminding me of the time. Which government minister was it that said that taking a knee comes from Game of Thrones?
Yeah. It wasn't Grant Shappo. What was Shappo?
Wasn't it Matt Hancock or someone said that taking a knee as an act of protest came from Game of Thrones?
I know. Well, listen, I'm gonna rescue you whilst Van rescues himself. I'm talking about, if anyone's ever watched a film with the wonderful Judi Dench of Mrs. Brown, she plays Queen Victoria in that film.
She does. That's the Billy Connolly one, isn't it?
It
From
is
about 98, I want to say.
Yeah. Oh, it is brilliant. So if you're a fan of that film, skip forward to 2017 and Judi Dench is back again as old Queen Vic.
It's sort of a sequel, isn't it? There's sort of a part 2 element to this. It's like the sequel to a film it's in no way physically or financially connected to.
I love it. This film is called Victoria and Abdul, and it is on Wednesday on BBC 4, at 9 p.m. And it is the true story of Abdul Karim, a young prison clerk from India who travels to present Queen Victoria with a moher on her golden jubilee, and it's just a gift essentially, and essentially strikes a very unlikely friendship with her.
Lady Churchill was absolutely scandalized, sitting next to a servant, and a Hindu to boot.
The Munshi is a Muslim scholar and knows the Quran off by heart. And for your information, he's a servant no longer. He's to be given a staff of his own.
What do you mean, a staff?
The little fat one.
Oh, this is absurd. Letters, invitations to supper. You're treating him like a member of the family.
No, I like Abdul. Lady Churchill had better get used to the fact. As the Munshi is coming on holiday with us. As a member of the household.
You can't take a Muslim to Florence.
I can take a Muslim wherever I like. Good night, Bertie.
I loved this film. It was so charming, so interesting as well. It's like a hidden story about Queen Victoria that you didn't know. Obviously got me Googling afterwards to try and find out about the real Abdul. He did exist. And beautifully acted.
Did, yeah.
Yeah, beautifully acted, obviously, from the brilliant Judi Dench, but also Ali Faisal as well as Abdul is brilliant in this. Eddie Izzard's in this as well. Stephen Frears. It's great.
That's it. Eddie Izzard as Bertie, I think, is the standout in this because nobody plays slimy scumbag quite like Eddie Izzard. Ali Faisal, incidentally, I just looked up what he's doing next. He's in Death on the Nile, the sort of Ken Branagh sequel to Murder on the Orient Express.
Good for him.
As a direct sequel. The other things I always forget about this film, I always forget Stephen Frears directed it. And how good is Adil Akhtar from Four Lions?
Yeah.
As she puts it, as the short fat one.
Yeah.
How does Judi Dench manage to make something that dismissive sound classy? It's so weird.
Oh, it's so brilliant.
Really good movie. I really loved this film. I thought it was a really touching, really moving drama, and it does have that novelty, like you say, of being that sort of semi-sequel to Mrs. Brown. Like, you could literally package this up as a Matalan box set. It'd be perfect.
Yeah, so fantastic. So there you go. It's on, as we mentioned before, Wednesday, BBC 4, 9 p.m. We're going to jump to something completely different next, aren't we, Van?
We are. So, Thursday, E4, 9 p.m. I could make I can do this with every film in this series, bar the first one. I can make an argument for this being the best of the Mission Impossible series.
What you can't say is this is the one which Tom Cruise shouted at his crew for, so...
That's very true. This is... Okay, first of all, before we get to this, do you know how Mission Impossible movies are constructed? Because, I think we've touched on it briefly before, but I've heard lengthier discussions about it over the Christmas break.
I don't know, in the Scientology meetings?
No, the way it works is they hire the director who has like a basic story outline. Then Tom Cruise gets in touch with them because he's a producer on all these things, has been since the second one, I think. And he gets in touch with them and he says, right, I'm learning to do this at the minute, or I've always wanted to do that, or I've always wanted to do this, or I've always wanted to go there. Let's write that in. And that's how they do it. Wow. So when Tom Cruise phoned up Brad Bird, the director of The Incredibles and Tomorrowland, and said, I want to climb the Burj Khalifa, he had to literally come up with an excuse and a justification to build a near $200 million action movie around the idea that Tom Cruise wants to be an actual free-hanging man off the top of the Burj Khalifa, also giving way to the greatest selfie anyone has ever taken. To hell with Ellen DeGeneres. So this is Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, which is the one in which they essentially become rogue agents. The IMF, Tom Cruise's team effectively, are blamed for a terrorist attack and forced to rely less on the organisation or the toys that they normally would, and effectively go rogue, effectively rely on the bare bones version of their equipment to do the job they ordinarily would, only this time if they're caught or killed, they're actually caught or killed. As we get told by the Secretary of Defense.
So what happens now?
Now I've been ordered to take you back to Washington, where the DOD will label you as a rogue extremist and hang the Kremlin bombing on you and your team. Unless you were to escape somewhere between here and the airport, having assaulted Mr. Brandt and me.
Sir?
You would then illegally scrounge whatever material you could from a backup supply cache that I've overlooked, the same cache where your team are waiting for further orders.
Sir, you may want to
You will then disappear, and this conversation never having taken place, your intentions would be unclear. But if any one of your team is caught or killed, they will be branded terrorists, out to incite global nuclear war.
Oh, that's very dramatic.
It's quite, isn't it? This is the one that Jeremy Renner got cast in as to set him up as inheriting the franchise. Like, this was meant to be the last Tom Cruise one. and Jeremy Renner was going to take over. Meaning, and that happened twice that year. And both times they wound up reversing the decision afterwards. So Matt Damon came back to the Bourne series. Tom Cruise decided, you know what, I do like this series after all. I'll keep it going. Poor Jeremy Renner.
Wow, what is it that Jeremy Renner's doing wrong that they don't want to carry on with him? It's a question I think everyone should be asking. Anyway, this is one of my favourites out of the Mission Impossible series. I mean, Paula Patton's in this as well. She's great in this. The Burj Khalifa scene, as you mentioned, it's just breathtaking in itself. So, and that's what you go and watch these movies for. You kind of want to see what Tom Cruise is going to do next. Like, when's he going to go in space? Probably in the next couple of years.
No, that's happening. That's actually happening. He's booked on a commercial space flight with Doug Liman.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, he's actually going.
Yeah, but it's in the next couple of years, isn't it? So we'd have to wait a little bit of time for this. Hopefully he'll do it before he's 70. But anyway, regardless, it's still worth your time. Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, Thursday, 21st of January on E4 at 9 p.m. Finishing up the week.
Finishing up with some sex appeal, are we, Becks?
Who could say that maybe I chose this selection of movies on TV this week? What can I say? I am excited about this because I haven't watched it in a while and maybe it's time again. But it is on very late. BBC One, 11:30 p.m. on the Friday, is Interview with the Vampire. Yes, not only is it Tom Cruise and also Brad Pitt, but also Christian Slater as well, let's not forget on that. He tells the story of, after the death of his wife and daughter, how Louis is turned into a vampire by Lestat de Lioncourt. To keep Louis by his side, Lestat converts a plague-ridden girl, and it is brilliant.
So, what do?
I'm a vampire.
That's something I haven't heard before. You mean this literally, I take it?
Absolutely. I was waiting for you in that alleyway. Watching you, watching me. And then you began to speak.
What a lucky break for me.
Perhaps lucky for both of us.
You said you were waiting for me. What were you gonna do? Kill me, drink my blood, all that stuff?
Yes. But you needn't be concerned with that now.
Only Brad Pitt could deliver an entire performance in this tone of voice at the height of his popularity and success as a renowned international sex symbol.
Works for me. Apparently Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt really didn't get on this movie.
Did they not? It doesn't especially show in the film. I would, because there is a lot of homoerotic tension between the two.
Between the two performances there. This kind of gets a little bit of a bad rap. I think this is kind of like a cult classic, this movie. I loved it so much. Like the Stephen Rea, is it Stephen Rea moment in there? Or Antonio Banderas moment, actually, is quite chilling, where he takes a woman and essentially kills her and leaves her for his vampire friends to eat at the end is quite a big moment in there. There's lots of things that I remember when thinking back to this movie. Like
British actress Indra O'Veigh, I believe.
Oh, nice.
I don't know why I remember that.
Yeah, I have no idea why you remember that, but great. Tandy Newton's in this. Obviously, Kirsten Dunst is in this. Yes, Stephen Rea is as Santiago. I quite enjoyed him as Santiago in this. So look, there's a whole thing. I bet you didn't know this. Helen McCrory, second whore, is what she plays in this.
Oh, I mean, that's the role that you want at the top of your IMDb filmography. You know, when it says what you're best known for. I'm sure she really loves having second whore Interview with the Vampire at the top of her filmography. I think it's a really good movie. I actually quite like Interview with the Vampire. I think a lot of the bad rep that's cast over it is a lot to do with the sequel, which is Queen of the Damned, the Aaliyah Stuart Townsend, which I admit is truly terrible. And was ill-advised on concept alone. But Interview with the Vampire, I think, is a really good movie to finish out the week with. This is, 11:30 on Friday night on BBC One. So, prime channel, prime slot, prime night of the week. What's not to love?
Welcome back to Off Screen. We have kept you on the couch with everything from your Freeview guide for the week, but now we're turning to DVD, Blu-ray, and of course, streaming. And yes, unbelievably, there is new offerings out there as and when you need it, and we're going to kick off with a couple that you're available on DVD and Blu-ray, which is Collective as first and foremost, and then we've got Relic as well. Van, Take us through them.
So, Collective. Now, I didn't get to review this at the tail end of last year, so I still haven't seen it yet. But there's so much buzz around this that I kind of have to. And you know, I can't resist a good documentary. So, this is about fraud committed by a number of government ministers and uncovered by a group of journalists in the wake of a fire in Bucharest. After which, a number of the victims then mysteriously died in completely unrelated ways. Like, they were hospitalized because of this fire, but then all just died of really strange causes. And it's about the investigation into that. And it's one of those setups that's kind of like Three Identical Strangers. I gotta know what the hell the mystery is behind that. But more than that, I hear from, some critic friends that I actually, trust, like highbrow cardigan-wearing critics, but the good ones. There are one or two good ones. That this is actually worth watching. So I'm gonna take Maria Duarte's advice and actually watch this one. Relic, meanwhile, is a relatively recent horror movie that stars Emily Mortimer and I want to say Bella Heathcote.
Yeah.
Remember Bella Heathcote? She was going to be the next big thing for about 20 minutes about 4 years ago.
And now she's making Relic.
And now she's disappeared and come back in Relic, which is written and directed by Natalie Erica James. And this is the sort of 3 generations of women in a haunted house, effectively. When the grandmother mysteriously disappears, the mother and adult daughter go to visit. I think it takes place in Ireland. The mum is Emily Mortimer. The daughter is Bella Heathcote. I forget who plays. I think it's Robin Nevin plays the grandmother. And it's about the mysterious circumstances surrounding her disappearance, her eventual reappearance, and the things that arrive in the house with her upon her return. Very creepy, very atmospheric. Did give me a couple of really good jumps. There's some wonderful cinematography in it. The visual styling of it is incredible. I thought it had a lot going for it, but also it serves as this wonderful visual parable for the grandmother's like dementia as well. So as she feels her grip loosening on her reality, so too do those around her feel their grip on their own sanity going in the process as well. Really something.
I have to ask, how is Emily Mortimer in it? Because I'm loving Emily Mortimer in The Newsroom, which I am devouring at the moment. She's brilliant.
She is brilliant. But first of all, Emily Mortimer can never be better than she is in The Newsroom. She's terrific in The Newsroom. Everyone's great in The Newsroom. I mean, I'd say that no one could be better than they are in The Newsroom, but Jeff Daniels has been equally brilliant, if not even better, in other things, as he is in The Newsroom. Really love him as Will McAvoy in The Newsroom. She's great, though. Absolutely brilliant performance. She's less the focus than Bella Heathcote is to an extent. They sort of share the screen time, but it's a little bit more weighted in Bella Heathcote's favour, I'd say. If you're looking for a DVD out of those two to get, though, I've only seen Relic. I would recommend Relic wholeheartedly, but I hear amazing things about Collective as well.
Fantastic. Okay, let's move across to streaming as well, because we have a couple of offerings from Netflix and also Amazon Prime.
We do. One that's not on our list that actually is arriving on Amazon Prime from today. It was a sort of a last-minute edition. This is Regina King's One Night in Miami, which I had the pleasure of seeing at the London Film Festival. Did you get to see this one as well?
No.
Absolutely brilliant movie that basically plays like the Avengers of African-American historical icons. It is like an imagined night in a motel room shared by, I think it's Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, Jim Brown, and Sam Cooke, and it takes place in immediately after Muhammad Ali's title-winning fight, so that when he became the world champ. But this is literally half an hour after that, and it is the 4 of them in a motel room over the course of an evening, basically getting into the debate of the time and hashing out their differences. Has a lot of very poignant exploration of the issues facing Black America in the 60s. Wonderful performances, particularly Aldous Hodge, who I quite like from Invisible Man recently, and Clemency, who's very good in Clemency as well. But then again, he's been a great actor for years. It's nice to see him getting some time in the sun as well. He plays Jim Brown here. Definitely worth seeing. Funnily enough, opened on Regina King's birthday on Amazon Prime, so it's also her feature directorial debut. And you know what? She started out with a bang, quite clearly. On Netflix, weeks, on Friday the 22nd, which is next Friday, White Tiger, which is getting a lot of press at the moment from Priyanka Chopra, who plays the female lead in it. New movie chronicling a driver who's basically working for a sort of rich, spoilt couple, gets drawn into a web of lies and deceit through his aspirations to basically just get more out of life for himself.
Balram, have you ever seen a computer?
We had many of them in the village with the goats.
The goats are pretty advanced to use computers.
Okay, now you're being a jerk. I didn't like the way he had spoken about me. Since I was a boy, the desire to be a servant had been hammered into my skull. I, Balram Halwai, I drove the car. I was alone in the car. They made me sign that confession.
Why would you kick him? Why would you hit him like that?
You're my driver!
Not what I was expecting. I was expecting something along the lines of Tiger King. Sounds good.
Does sound good. Really good trailer run. I think I've got the link for this one coming later to review for next week. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm actually really overjoyed at the moment that Priyanka Chopra is getting more high-profile roles. I'd hoped to see more of her post-Baywatch, but it just doesn't seem to have really happened. I think she's great fun in Baywatch as well.
Yeah.
But just did never seem to happen for her. I'm hoping that this gives her more exposure. But anyway, that's next Friday, the 22nd, on Netflix. The same day on Amazon Prime is Dave Franco's directorial debut, starring he's also co-written it with Joe Swanberg, stars his real-life partner Alison Brie, alongside Dan Stevens. It's called The Rental. It's about two couples who rent an Airbnb on the lake, start to suspect something may not quite be right with the owner of said property, and it's a standard sort of twisty, turny, for the 25-year-olds kind of thriller. It's got a lot of cred for it. I think Dave Franco's a far better director than I would have expected. But then again, his brother's James Franco. James Franco did a hell of a job directing The Disaster Artist. So, given how involved Dave Franco was in that, I shouldn't be as surprised as I was. But this was a relatively quiet release. Obviously, I think it was about 4 or 5 months ago, whilst we were still in the first lockdown.
Yeah.
I think this sort of quietly came out. But that's available on Prime, along with White Tiger on Netflix from next Friday, 22nd of January. So there's some good stuff to be cracking on with on streaming. But I do recommend One Night in Miami wholeheartedly.
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, look, we've got a great selection across the board this week again. As we do every week, we do try and find you guys the best of the bunch. So, look, there's a few things that
Sorry, not Stardust.
Yeah, true. I was just going to say, you just beat me to it. I was just about to say, maybe there's a couple that you might want to avoid, but other than that, generally a good one. My big pick of the week is going to be Blade Runner 2049 and also Interview with the Vampire. So it kind of rounds off the beginning and the end of the week for you on your Freeview, so everyone can access that. I'm going with Ghost Protocol because I haven't seen it in a few years. I really loved it. I'm watching that again. I love Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. I always remember these movies by which set piece takes place in which one. So I know the one after is the one where he's hanging off the side of the plane, and the one after that is the Henry Cavill one with the machine gun biceps. Yeah, that one. That might actually be the most consistent franchise running today. But it's a shame it has to come to an end when he becomes uninsurable in a couple of years. So next week we might get to talk about White Tiger, we might get to talk about Baby Done, and we might get to talk about The Exception. But at the moment, I think it's probably best that we don't commit ourselves to release dates because everything is in flux, such as the state of the world. But either way, we will be back to talk about things that are on Freeview and on streaming and on DVD. So we will be talking about some movies. We will do. So for now, we'll love you and leave you with all of your 7-day guide to everything movies. But as ever, we will be back with you next week. So I've been Becks Perfect.
I've been Van Connor, and we shall return.